fight to save the A-10 has never been about the airplane. It has always been about saving the capability and the institutional knowledge of the attack pilot community. The Air Force brass has finally achieved one of their highest ambitions. They have successfully begun to weasel their way out of a mission they have traditionally considered a distraction, namely, providing ground troops with effective close air support. Recently, the Air Force has transferred 2 A-10 Warthogs out of service and over to the boneyard at Arizona's Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. They are among the first 42 A-10s to be retired this year, with the remaining 260 aircraft slated to follow over the next few years. U.S. ground forces depend on U.S. pilots to supply accurate and sustained fires so they can gain a battlefield advantage. Just as importantly, the ground forces frequently depend on those accurate and sustained fires when they're under enemy attack and need to be rescued. For troops on the ground, effective close air support can literally mean the difference between life and death. The A-10 is the only combat-proven attack aircraft, and it's loved by ground troops for its ability to unleash hell against entrenched enemy positions. Unlike the F-35, which, despite being sold as a viable replacement to perform the close air support mission, has yet to demonstrate its effectiveness, the A-10 is the only aircraft that was designed from the very beginning for the close air support, airborne forward air control, and combat search and rescue roles. The heavily armed and armored A-10 demonstrated its ability as a tank buster during the 1991 Gulf War and is a highly effective close air support platform during its frequent deployments in the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. And despite the retirements, A-10s are still being actively deployed today to beef up America's military presence in the Middle East. The A-10 is undoubtedly an impressive aircraft, but its real value to the national defense isn't its impressive cannon, triple redundant systems, or the titanium bathtub surrounding the cockpit to keep the pilot safe from intense ground fire. Rather, it is the specialized A-10 pilots, who have developed and nurtured the attack pilot culture, who have proven to be the key to the program's success. The introduction of the A-10 into the Air Force created an enduring community of pilots dedicated to supporting ground troops. Nothing like that existed in the Air Force before. It is that culture and that institutional knowledge which will quickly vanish as the retired A-10s molder under the desert sun in the coming years. During World War II, the Army Air Forces developed highly effective coordination measures to work with their ground counterparts, many of which are still used today. Immediately after the war, however, the newly established United States Air Force scrapped almost all its tactical aviation units in favor of prioritizing a strategic bombing doctrine. When the Korean War began less than 5 years later, Air Force close air support was virtually non-existent when it was most needed. This was especially true during the first few months of that war, when the North Koreans very nearly pushed the defending South Korean and American forces into the sea around Pusan. The Army and Marine Corps fighting in Korea for the next 3 years had to largely rely on Navy flyers for close air support because the Air Force's big bombers were not up to the task. Air Force leaders failed to learn their lesson from Korea. Some of them attempted to justify their unpreparedness by making the argument that the Korean War was an anomaly. And so American forces fighting in Vietnam also had to go to war without effective air support.